Kadene Chambers, and welcome back to another episode of BTS Live. We are now in the final gem for this month, and we have been talking about the grief associated with missed milestones. And I've been talking to two wonderful young women, Kallysa Young, my daughter, and Kayla Cook, one of her best friends. And you might be thinking, grief, missed milestones. If you haven't watched any of the previous episodes for this month, let me quickly tell you. Grief, again, is not just about losing a loved one. Grief is associated with the loss of anything or anyone that was significant to you. So if you lose your house, you can experience grief. If you lose material possessions, I think losing it in a natural disaster, hurricane, tornado, fire, things like that, and you lose everything. Hello, think about it. You are going to be turned upside down. You're going to grieve. You're going to mourn. Compromised health. People can grieve their compromised health. You can grieve a lost career. So if you lose your job, someplace that you've been at for a long time, or that was critical to how you identify, you can grieve that loss. When some persons enter into retirement, if you're not prepared to recognize that, hello, there are some adjustments that are required, you will experience grief, right? And of course, you know about the grief associated with losing our loved ones, but I'm saying anything at all, any experience, anything or any person that is significant to you that you lose, you can feel grief. So you're wondering then, what am I speaking to these young ladies about? The grief associated with missed milestones, and you're thinking, what missed milestone? Well, the missed milestone for them would be that they were impacted by the pandemic in terms of their final year of high school, and that's a big deal here for most places. But in the US, the culture here is like, it's so different from what I am accustomed to in Jamaica. They go all out in so many more ways. So yes, we have prom and that, but it still feels like different here. It's just a big deal, right? And that cohort of students would have been denied that opportunity. And the same would be true for students who were in college or university and it was their final year, or elementary school or middle school, that they would also have been impacted. And what we've been discussing this month is how Kallysa and Kayla, and we've been talking about the impact on their friends as well, how they felt throughout this whole experience, and how it is still impacting them right now. And what we've realized, what I've uncovered, is that they probably need therapy to help them cope with it because they're still angry, and understandably so. And so this final question for this gem then is so important. Ladies, did your family realize the impact that all the missed milestones of school leaving had on you? And were they supportive enough? And if not, what would have helped? But so firstly, did they realize the impact of the missed opportunities, missed milestones?
At first, no. My mom, she couldn't really grasp why I was so frustrated and annoyed, seeing as I didn't grow up here. I came here at the start of high school, so 9th grade. So me going through that journey for 9th, 10th, 11th, I saw how it was hyped up and I was ready. I was like, let's go. So for her, it was like, Kallysa, you didn't grow up here. If you're in Jamaica, this wouldn't be happening. You aren't missing anything, really. So at first, no, it took her some time to reason with me. And it wasn't until I was still angry, a couple months later, that she realized, okay, this is really bothering her still. Why is this still bothering her? And then we sat down, we spoke about it, and that's when she started to really see that I was struggling and it was annoying me.
And annoying is putting it gently.
Yeah.
She really was angry, and I really got the opportunity to really process that, okay, it really was impacting her. And while initially I must say that I knew that I expected some amount of disappointment, let's put it that way. But the extent of how she felt, I couldn't understand it at the time. So disappointment, yes, because I understand that, but I didn't get it the way I get it now, and the way I started to understand months later. So Kayla, how about you with your family? Did they understand the impact?
Not really. My mother understood the importance because I'm my mother's firstborn child. So for her, she was like, yes, like 1 out of 5 out of the house, you know, on to the next, gonna walk across that stage. So, and I'm the first grandchild. So everybody in my family was very hyped up, very excited. They were ready to see, you know, the first walk across. And then when they didn't get it, like, you know, everybody else kind of moved on. But my mom, that it really stuck with her because she felt like, I don't know, I guess as a parent, she felt like she wished she could do so much more. She was, I remember some days she would come in there, like, she would come in there crying, like, oh my God.
Her mom's so emotional.
Yeah, my mom is very emotional, but she would come in there crying for me, like, oh my God, like, I know how sad this must be for you. And it really stung because the day that they made our graduation just so happened to land on my birthday. So I will forever remember me not being able to graduate as a birthday. So every year on my birthday, I'm always kind of a little bittersweet about it.
The memories.
Yeah, the memories. And, you know, like, I had family, like, come down still, expecting, you know, like, just trying to cheer me up a little bit to make me feel a little better. But, like, nobody, I don't think anybody besides, like, maybe my mother and my sister really understood that, like, that pain.
The depth of it.
Yeah, everybody else kind of, they're just like, okay, you got 4 more. You'll be okay. Yeah, so,
Okay.
Yeah, it was a little hard.
So there was some amount of understanding, if not from everybody, from most persons, for both of you. But it didn't feel like they truly understood the depth of the sadness and grief that you were experiencing, which would also then suggest that any kind of support that you would have gotten still wouldn't have been probably at the level that you needed.
I also struggled with really trying to figure out if I was actually overreacting. For a while, I was like, okay, maybe she's right. You didn't grow up here. Like, what was the issue? But I'm like, no, but I think I should be sad. So that was also a battle for me. I was like, am I overreacting? Am I overthinking this? Is it this serious for me to be visibly upset and annoyed all day, every day?
You know, so I'm going to apologize to Kallysa publicly. I apologize for making you feel like I invalidated your emotions and how you were feeling.
She apologized then and I forgave her.
You know, I did because as a parent, it is not, apologizing isn't beneath me. It's important. So I apologize to her all the time. I've been doing that since she was yay high.
Yeah.
Since she was yay high. Because it's important. I want her to be that kind of adult as well, and I lead by example. And so it takes nothing of me to say I'm sorry when I've done something wrong. And to hear that I didn't, because what she just said is the first time hearing it, to know that how I responded to her pain made her question the validity of what she was feeling. Makes me feel sad because I am never to do that, right? And so how we feel is how we feel. Nobody else gets to tell us whether or not our feelings are justified, right? The most that can happen is if I do something and you feel a particular way because of how you perceived it. The most that I can do is to explain that wasn't my intent. What I meant to say or what I meant to communicate or what I meant to do was this, that, or the other. And then you get to decide if your perception of my actions or behaviors or words, whatever, has shifted, and then the feeling would now be different. Or if you still choose to feel that way because you still perceive it like me, I hear you, but I don't know if it sounds genuine enough or looks. You get to decide how you feel. Somebody else can't tell you. And as a people, it's so often that we we try and tell people how they're to feel, and I'm guilty of that as well. Meaning, somebody will feel upset about something. I'm like, why are you even upset about that? You understand? So the most we can do is, identify, be self-aware of when we're doing any version of that. And so I process that what I did, how I responded to how she was responding to the situation, was not very supportive. And the reality is I did do things to try and support her. So we did the photo shoot where I told her to invite her friends here, And so they had a blast. And that was one of the things that I tried to do to help to reduce the kind of pain and anxiety and sadness that she was feeling. And I know that worked. They had fun. So in other words, it's not, let me hurry up and defend myself. It's not as if I was just right across the board dismissive of what was going on with her. No, I was still trying to think, okay, how can I help to make this better? How can I reduce the angst and anguish that she's feeling? How can I step in and step up to support her? But I did drop the ball as it relates to whether or not I thought that the extent of the emotion that she was expressing was logical. So I dropped that ball right there. So what would you say, Kayla, about the level of supportiveness that you got, support from your family? Because you say your mother was crying, cried. So she stood in the gap with you.
Yeah. My mom still is very mad about it to this day. She'll tell anybody how angry she is and how she wishes, like, I could walk across the stage. You know, even my sister, she was like, you know, when you walk across the stage, you gotta cheer for Kayla too. So she's very emotional about the whole situation. But I feel like my family could have put a little bit more, you know, effort into the thought of it. 'Cause like I said before, like, I was the first in my family to like really walk across the stage that was going to be the first to walk across the stage with the actual diploma, you know, besides like my mom. So I don't know, I guess like they all kind of just moved on from it. They're like, okay, you know, you're just another one. You're just another one who just didn't get to walk across the stage.
So question, what do you think they could have done?
I don't know. I mean, for me, like I said, like my birthday just so happened to fall on our fake graduation date.
Yeah.
So at first it wasn't very, like, I was already really irritated and fed up about the day. And that so happened to also be the first day I got a job. Mm-hmm. So it was just any old day for me, you know, a fake birthday, a fake job, fake graduation. So I was just kind of like, just ready for the day to end.
It didn't feel like a special.
It didn't feel like, and even though it was my birthday, it didn't feel special at all. Like, it felt like just any old day. But when I got home that night, I do remember, like, my family was there. They had like presents for me. They had a little cake for me. So I don't really think I had anything to do with the fact of graduating, but more of the fact that, you know, like, at least, you know, if you couldn't celebrate graduating, at least you can celebrate your birthday. Like, at least you can celebrate something on this day and make it memorable. And which was my mom's whole thing. She's like, I remember she put me to the side. She's like, you know, if you don't remember anything from today, just remember that it's gonna be a stamp for this day. Like, you're always gonna remember this day as the day that it ended. Like, it just ended. Like, not as a bad way. I don't think she meant it as a bad way then. Like, when she said it to me at first, I was like, thanks, Mom. Like, thank you for telling me. You know, it all ended. I know that. It all ended. But like, now I understood where she was kind of going with that. She was just letting me know, like, even though this ended, you know, you're always gonna remember this as the next chapter of your life. You know, like I said, it feels unfinished, but it's just the start of a new chapter that everybody has to go through. It's just that some people get a happier ending than we do. So
question, is there anything that either of you can think of that would help to make it feel less unfinished?
It's too late.
No, I agree. It's like, whenever I think of that time, I'm just, my stomach hurts, my head hurts. I'm like, ugh. I feel like they waited too long to try to make it feel good. Like, they tried to put a bow on it, you know, with our faces being on the screen, but they held out so long with it. Like, they waited to the middle of June before they even decided to do anything. And what they did, it felt rushed. Like, I felt like they just put no thought in it. You know, they just pushed us out there and they're like, good luck. That's it. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like really and truly what you need, and I guess what your entire cohort probably does need, is what we said in the last gem, is therapy. Like a plan for helping you to cope with even now the impact that it still has on you every time you think about it. Like, how do you get to a place where, because it's like any grief, not working through it
doesn't help.
It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere. It just sits there, yes, and it just sits there, and then it gets worse because the emotions keep building over time. And every year, because you have other siblings, I almost said Kallysa doesn't have any, she's my only child.
That's it. We graduated at the same time.
Right. So there's nobody else. So for Kayla though, as her younger siblings go through the school system and then graduate high school, every time somebody's gonna graduate from high school, it's going to stir up these emotions again.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
got 4 years of it, back to back. So
We're all back to back.
it's always gonna fester each year. You know, I think I'm gonna catch a break, and then the next one's gonna graduate. And you know, it's like I don't want to say hate-love relationship, but it's hard to like, cause I'm so proud of my siblings.
It's bittersweet. Like, I'm so happy for you, but that should be me.
Yeah, it should. It feels like it feels like I feel like nothing happened. You know, it feels like nothing happened. But I'm gonna be so proud of my siblings still. Each and every one of them that walks across that stage. If they walk across that stage, I'm gonna be so proud of them regardless, you know. And I'm probably gonna be a little bitter about it, but I'm gonna be happy the fact that, you know, even if I can experience, I'm glad that I took the punch in the gut for them, because, you know, I have 4 younger siblings, so at least I was able to be like, you know, I mean, and some of my siblings, they don't even care for graduation. Like, they're just like, as long as I get the diploma and I graduated, that's all that matters. But I let them know, like, at the end of those 4 years, you're gonna wish that somebody cheered you on when you walked across that, because high school is not easy. It's really hard. It sounds long, but it goes by quick, and you grow up really fast in a short amount of time, and then you just expect though that last point to be like that time for everybody to cheer on you, root on you. And you know, everybody doesn't feel the same way. Everybody doesn't really care for graduation. I know a lot of my family members, they don't care for graduation. They're just happy that they got their diploma. But for the people who were able to, you know, go through that process, I know they're just happy that something happened for them, that they got something at the end.
So what I realize is that any kind of tool to help you all work through that grief that is still locked in would be useful. So I think I just gave myself some homework, and that I will definitely put out there for VA Productions viewers to help all final year students who were impacted, final year students in 2020 who were impacted by the pandemic in terms of not being able to have those farewell activities. And I know also that, let's say, college students who started school 2020 that fall semester, they would also have been severely impacted in terms of the experiences that they were looking for
as a freshman in college.
And so they would have been robbed of that freshman experience as well. And so we're talking about the goodbye from the high school aspect of it, or any school, but then the going into starting a new school year, starting college or university. Those students were also severely impacted. So for them, they didn't get the goodbye from high school.
We didn't get the hello
and they didn't get the hello to college.
Yeah.
You know, and so it feels like a double whammy in that regard. And so when I realize now that 2 years later, it still feels so intense for you, the sadness and the feelings of loss, I realize that as parents and parent figures, there is still some work that we have to do in terms of offering you support, like recognizing that you're not okay. There is still, because we want you guys to be, well, I want you guys to be properly adjusted through the experience, to allow and that doesn't happen if you don't face the grief. It doesn't happen if you don't work through it. So this conversation for the both of you is one step in the right direction. It's not gonna fix anything like we're snapping the fingers and it is fixed. But we are us having the conversation, shining the light on it, is progress. So I know that I've now given myself some work where I will do some more work to put together some kind of tool, information, and I will share it, and it will be specifically for students who were impacted by the pandemic in 2020 as it relates to leaving school, finishing. So those school leaving activities were hindered, hampered, cancelled, changed, adjusted drastically, dramatically, and the entering, starting college, university life, and how that was impacted as well. And whatever grief you might be feeling and sadness, we can work through them, you know, just give you the right tools. Ladies, I appreciate you actually joining me and really opening up your personal space to really share the impact that the pandemic had on you, and how it has forever taken something from you that was so significant that for the rest of your life, every time you think about high school,
we didn't even graduate.
That's the one thing that you're going to be saying. So Kallysa Young, Kayla Cook, I thank you so much for sitting with me today. I really appreciate you both, and you have been so amazing at sharing and expressing yourselves. I am proud of
got
you
it from my
both.
mom.
I have to concur.
Yeah.
I agree. I am Kadene Chambers. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of BTS Live Loss and Grief. And this one we have been talking about the grief associated with missed milestones, right? Thank you so much, and I'm hoping that we have shed some light, you have learned something, and that it will encourage you to have the conversation with the young people in your life who were affected by the pandemic, right? So we have some work to do as parents. And if you are one of those students who were affected, I really encourage you to have the conversation with your parents or parent figures, or at least an adult who you feel comfortable having the conversation with. Thank you so much for joining us and staying tuned. I appreciate you.